1923 star Brian Garrity finally opened up about how Zane created his bond with the Duttons. Taylor Sheridan also finally spilled and revealed just how expensive the show is. But is 1923 based on a true story? And why is the show such a hit? Keep watching and find out. First off, how did Zane get so close to the Duttons? The second Yellowstone prequel, made by Taylor Sheridan, premiered on Paramount Plus on December 18th, and the show revolves around a different generation of the Dutton family in the midst of a period of long hardships brought on by the end of the century. Quite early, around the series' debut, audiences were given a reminder of the family portrayed in 1883 and introduced to Jacob, played by Harrison Ford, and Cara Dutton, played by the iconic Helen Mirren, as well as some pretty big concerns over locust infestations, droughts, and of course prohibition. Garrity takes on the role of Zane Davis, 1923's version of Rip Wheeler, a ranch hand who at first glance seems pretty loyal to the Duttons, and goes with Jacob and others on a cattle drive in the first episode. 1923 brings with it a number of new characters, and even though audiences can believe that more of Zane will be explored as the series moves forward, Garrity is sharing some deep insights surrounding his intimate relationship with the Duttons. In an interview with TV Insider, the actor stated that Zane was thought of as a version of Rip. He also revealed that Zane is prepared to do whatever is requested of him, and that Jacob and Cara can be seen as parental figures in his life. He also added that being a cowboy is something Zane really likes, and it was Jacob who really gave him that chance. Take a look at Garrity's comments about Zane's dynamic with the Duttons. They're like parents to him. They've been great to him. Jacob helped him afford this life that he loves, which is being a cowboy. The thing about cowboys is they need to work. They love their jobs, and they love showing up to work every day. So I think that's it. He is always doing something in action for them. The Yellowstone prequel has had fans excitedly waiting for the arrival of its new cast. Of course, how could you not be excited for Helen Mirren? Zane actually doesn't play a huge part in 1923's premiere, but it is obvious that the Duttons trust him, as Cara asked him for his help to find her husband early on, and he was given the job by Jacob to gather the herd after they came back to the ranch. Garrity said that at times he's sometimes more like an elder brother to Jacob's great nephew Jack, played by Darren Mann. Coming up, we might get to see more of Zane. Fans also get a little sneak peek of that particular relationship as well. Moving forward, as fans find out more about the Duttons' past, Zane's dynamic with them will likely become more obvious in the show. Other storylines surrounding the ranch and the family include Jacob's problems with the sheep herders and Jack's coming wedding with Elizabeth, played by Michelle Randolph. 1923 kicked off with Cara firing a shot at a man and a voiceover by Elsa that told viewers about what happened to her family. In another place, the episode cut to Africa, where Spencer Dutton was hunting wildlife, and as it went on, the question around why is he there was established. Cara sent him a letter asking why he is reluctant to come home, and coupled with his flashbacks to World War I, it's probable more of his character will be explored. There was also Tiona Rainwater's Catholic school experience, where she was abused by those in power. Her wish to leave is made obvious, which makes viewers wonder when and how that will happen. After its pilot aired, audiences have a lot to be excited for as season 1 of the prequel series goes on. The cast has teased a thrilling story in 1923, with so many interesting characters and conflicts already being put in place. It will be nice to see how it all plays out. For Zane, it seems probable that more of his character will be built up along the way, and it is worth considering what extent he will go to for the Duttons and their ranch. In an interview with Deadline, Sheridan was questioned about the budget for 1883, which was actually influenced by a quick production schedule to boost Paramount Plus's launch. Despite this, Sheridan revealed that 1923 was actually more expensive, comparing it to Game of Thrones. Sheridan said that 1883 might just be the most high-budget TV show ever made. Taylor also praised Paramount, saying that one great thing about them was how accommodating they are for the storyteller, or at least to Sheridan they were. He said that they were always down to add episodes because he needed to tell the story, and money was not a problem. He didn't even realize that the season ended up costing $150 million. However, he himself personally makes $1.3 million per episode. He has a net worth of $15 million, and in 2021, he signed off on a $200 million deal with Viacom-CBS. Coming up, what has made the franchise such a hit? In case you didn't know, the real budget for Game of Thrones Season 1 was reported to be around $6 million per episode. When taking the whole season into account, that sums up to $60 million. After the 1923 comparison that Sheridan made, it's obvious to see how the much-discussed prequel show ends up being way more expensive. It then also raises the question of why the wider Yellowstone world has been such a huge hit and why its spin-offs are being marketed as a crucial selling point for a rebranded streaming service. One big reason for the Yellowstone franchise being so successful is that it's an example of a specific genre being done well. It's a Western, which is a genre that has always had fans, but it's been updated and altered as needed. It changes depending on the spin-off and the setting shown, and it definitely helps that the Yellowstone universe, on the whole, also has the star-studded cast to go with it. It fills a need in some ways for viewers who want to watch the twists and intrigue they find in a lot of dramas, but in a Western setting with all the things that implies. The show debuted to a very solid critical reception. The show even broke the former record of Paramount Plus, delivering the streaming service's most-watched premiere ever in the U.S., beating the old number by almost 80% in the process. It also brought in 7.4 million total viewers across multiple platforms, confirming that the fans' love for Sheridan's stories is still strong. Here's the truth behind one of the show's most shocking scenes. Now that we know how much the show cost to make, let's talk about one of the most standout scenes in it. To put it short, 1923 is primarily about how the Duttons managed the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch through Montana's toughest era, and though it's completely fictional, the setting is heavily inspired by a lot of real American history. Other than how children like Tayona were mistreated by nuns and priests in boarding schools, we're also talking about the rise of ranching in Montana during the Great Depression and the era of Prohibition, and even the effects of the Great War, taking place during an insane time when the federal government openly sponsored boarding schools' efforts to wipe out entire indigenous cultures. The plot of 1923 is going to get even darker as the prequel goes even deeper into America's history in the 1920s. The pilot episode of 1923 includes extremely shocking scenes of physical and emotional abuse inside a Catholic boarding school for indigenous American youth in Montana. During those scenes in the Yellowstone prequel spin-off's pilot, Tayona can't recall a small detail in the process of soap making while in class, which leads Sister Mary O'Connor to mercilessly and repeatedly hit her hand with a wooden ruler. Tayona retaliates by taking the nun down and pounding her in the face as the class watches, horrified. As Father Renaud discovers what happened between the two, he punishes both Sister Mary and Tayona for their behavior. Sadly, the show is actually a pretty historically accurate picture of what really went down inside these boarding schools. These terrible institutions were founded by Western settlers specifically for forcibly assimilating the indigenous communities that were left without a home thanks to America's expansion. Indeed, the cast and characters of 1923 actually belong to the darkest Yellowstone story yet, set in a time when cases of abuse in Catholic boarding schools were common across the continental United States. Finally, Harrison Ford talks about his character. Harrison Ford is not past his prime. Despite having spent his whole life acting in some of Hollywood's most iconic movies, this actor's not done yet, and he isn't slowing down even now that he's in his 80s. He continues to appear as his most famous characters, recently reprising his role as Han Solo in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and next up, you'll see him come back as Indiana Jones too. He recently sat down with Yahoo Entertainment and opened up about his life and his time filming 1923. Surprisingly enough, Ford has real-life experience being a rancher, seeing how he owns a decent amount of property in Jackson, Wyoming. It definitely had something to do with his wanting to step into the shoes of Jacob Dutton. He said that he's not a big fan of farm work, but he really enjoys being there. He also talked about his newest character, and even though having a long resume with plenty of iconic characters, he talked about how there's something different about Jacob. He believes he has never played a character like him. He said that he really appreciates the intricacy of his inner journey, especially when it comes to his choices. He wants the audience to see his struggle. And boy, is it a struggle. Jacob will definitely have plenty of those. He's got plenty of problems lined up through 1923, seeing how he has to deal with multiple threats to his ranch, from the economic crisis to insects. Did you like 1923? Let us know in the comments below. That's it for today. If you liked the video, please leave a like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content just like this. See you in the next one.